now that that's out of the way, get this belt off of here. I have a whole box of these now. I generally don't even mess with keeping these gears or anything. I'll keep the belt, but for the most part I have so many of these that I'll probably never be able to use them all. But we're gonna go ahead and start pulling gears and getting the bottom of this stripped. All this really is a pain in the ass trying to do it with one hand. Most of the time this stuff's connected to other stuff and you just have to figure out what else is holding on. I might actually keep these. I don't think I have very many arm gears, I guess is what you'd call it. I don't know. But it has a pivoting arm on this end too, so be good for an articulating arm on something. I guess that's what it would be an articulating arm. You got two of them on this. And then, let's see, this looks like it might be some kind of encoder. Sorry, gotta make sure I pay attention to where the phone's aiming. Yeah, that'll probably go in the parts box. Usually I just take a flat tip and pry up on these. Sometimes they're a pain in the ass to get off, but most of the time it's just another electric motor is all it is. Alright, we'll save that for a minute. I'm gonna go ahead and cut the two wires. Get this out of the way. Something's up with my camera on my phone. It keeps shutting off on me. So cut that, throw that in the parts pile. Then pretty much you just take every screw out that you can see. That's all I do. Even if it's not holding something on, it still goes in your screw pile or your scrap pile. There's another little spring to throw in your parts. That's another thing I have a million of, so I don't even bother anymore. If I knew anybody would buy them, I'd probably go ahead and start throwing baggies up on eBay. And there's a spring on this arm. It just has hoops on it and it unhooks from both sides. Let's see what else is down here. That's all the screws on the bottom. So I'm going to flip it back over. And it looks like we have one screw on this side. Probably not even going to worry about trying to get that pulled off, because this whole piece is just going to go in the trash pile anyways. And there's should be two screws holding each side, each piece of plastic on the side on. Definitely keep all the electric motors. Don't break the board. The little thin ass piece of ribbon wire there doesn't really matter, because you can just solder regular wires on the board usually. I'll get more in depth with that after I get out everything apart. Let's see, there should be, looks like on this there might just be one screw on each side. There's so many manufacturers of VCRs, they all come apart some different way. There's always going to be something different, but once you tear enough crap apart, it's really not that hard to tear it to get anything out of something like this. Alright, I'm going to do the same thing like I did on the bottom. Just pull every screw that I can see. Trying to get everything off of here that's in the way of getting everything off. See, here's another screw on this arm. Looks like that's an adjuster screw, a height adjuster screw for something. It's like another adjustment screw there. There's a spring on that arm. I'm probably gonna have to pull all these springs off without the phone in my hand. Just get all these screws out for now. See how much that helps us getting this thing depopulated. I'm not actually sure what kind of sensor that is. I used to keep them. I guess I should look it up. It might be something useful to throw in the parts box. I'll look that up and throw it in at the end of this video, what it is. Or maybe just put add some text in on top of it. But there's 2 screws holding this motor on, and I'm gonna have to pull them out without the camera. So I'll go ahead and do that and get these springs off, and then we'll get back to pulling some screws. Alright, motor's off. You see all this ribbon cable just came off with it. I'm just gonna leave it on there for right this second. We got 2 more screws holding this brace on, and this is actually something good to keep. I'll actually bolt that motor back to this when I'm done. Not all of them have braces like this, but it's actually flat and the motor bolts to it, so this is really good, a really good motor mount to have. So I'll make sure that goes over there by the motor, and then it just lifts off. See what else we got down here. There's a good worm gear. It's pretty much a whole set right there. And this is actually a spring that goes in there. I'm gonna have to pull this little washer off, which I can't do with one hand. There's a couple screws holding this on too, or a couple springs in there. Throw them in your spring pile. Most people actually just throw the whole damn VCR in the scrap, but if you don't like paying money for stuff like springs and gears and LEDs, which LEDs are cheap as shit anyways, but I have quite a few. All the LEDs I'm putting in my power supply are actually out of other stuff. And like my Cat 5 tester, my Ethernet cable tester, when I got it, a couple of the yellow LEDs was burnt out, and I actually pulled them out of something else and fixed that. Alright, Alright, this whole thing should pop out of here now. Hey, it's just an electric motor. See what else we got up here. Alright, it looks like all the screws up here. Get this one pulled out, holds this little, actually don't even hold that on, it holds this little piece of steel on. Get that one out and then figure out what's next. Alright, to get this little washer off that holds this arm on with the big spring that I showed you earlier, I just took my flat tip and pried up on it. It doesn't take a whole lot, that's not even steel, it's just some kind of plastic. Some of this stuff just doesn't want to come off when you only have one hand to use. Go ahead and pull this gear out, then the worm gear will just pop out, and then this little rubber wheel here has brass in it, so you can use that for all kinds of things. Let's see, I think that's about it for this. It's actually worth keeping. The other springs are, looks like they're all fucked up pretty bad. So there it is. It'd be a good pressure wheel to keep on something. Just throw that over there. Then, well, I guess there is some more gears on the bottom here. If you can manage to get them off without fucking them up. That's usually my method, is see how one just popped out. Whatever, I try to pry out whatever I can, and whatever fucks up, and keep whatever's left. I'm gonna go ahead and get these popped off here, and we'll get started getting some of this smaller stuff done. We're going to start by getting these two screws out to get this metal plate off. It's just easier with everything together. It helps you hold it still. Well, at least for me with one hand, it's easier this way. This video actually turned out to be a little bit longer than I thought it'd be, just for ripping a VCR apart. Guess you don't realize how much is involved until you're actually trying to record it. Alright, now the only thing left holding the sides are these little gears on the steel rod, and they just have teeth that you bend out and pop them off. I'm gonna have to do that with both hands. Shit, I got the phone upside down. I have to do that with both hands, and then that's pretty much it for this. Then it's time to start on the boards. Alright, I'm going to pretty much just show the before and after on the boards, because just like when I did the portable TV teardown, I can't do this shit with one hand. So here's the big board. It has a couple inductors on it, which would be electric motors if you're scrapping them just as them, but I bust them apart and get the copper off. Then there's actually some, which not really worth anything, but there's some capacitors that I keep because I'm working on the way to be able to scrap them. Then there's some buttons, there's some ICs, transistors, shit with gold and silver in them. You know, got them all over here. Got one there, a couple over there. And I'm not exactly sure what that one is, but I keep them anyways. And then it's actually a good idea to try to unsolder these fuse holders too if you're into building electronics. They don't really cost shit, but it'll save you from having to buy one when you need it. And yeah, there's another little switch right here. Looks like an adjustable, maybe a transistor right there, or a potentiometer, not really sure. And let's see, a couple there on the bottom. Doesn't look like it really has very much surface mount shit on it. Then of course there's the smaller board. Really just has the 7 switches and the little connector that I pull them off about half the time if I can get them off without fucking them up. Just throw them in a box just in case. Then like on this one, if I can manage to get them both off, I actually have both sides of it. So, and of course there's some LEDs on the main board. Oh, this should be wire wound copper, but then we have this board, has some surface mount stuff on it. Those are for some damn reason I can't think of the name off the top of my head. They're capacitors is what they are. I just can't think of the main name for them. But keep those. Those are actually worth money. I got a whole jar full of them from this kind of shit. And there's another connector for ribbon wire. Just throw that in your pile. There's a connector right there, a connector there. It's if you don't have a desoldering, like an actual desoldering station, it can be a pain in the ass getting these off, and a lot of times you'll fuck them up. And I'm not actually sure what this one's for, but I might pull it off just to pull it off anyways. And let's see what else we have. This board here with electric motor on it. I have to, it should be, the only thing holding this on really should be the magnet. So I'm going to get that pried off, get the electric motor off of it, and then strip that board too. And I'll be back to show you my pile of shit from this crusty ass VCR. There's the pile of boards with everything off of them. A lot of these actually have surface mount stuff on them, so all the ones with surface mount's going to go in the box with the rest of my boards. And then eventually I'll get around to getting all that off. And there's the pile of steel for scrap. Let me get this stuff out of the way real quick, and I'll get everything else spread out and show you that. Alright, we got some gears, some springs, some components to reuse, some copper, an electric motor with a mount, a couple transformers, a little bit of brass, some belts. This is actually scrap. I just got to knock that rod out and the bearing out. Got some LEDs and LED holders, some screws, magnets, a little pile of capacitors, some graphite, some ICs and other things with gold and silver in them. Got some this, I actually figured out what it was. This was on the main board, and this was for another board to plug into it. And then we have this one where I had two boards connected. Just some other ribbon cable holders. Got a pile of push button switches. This piece of steel rod. Some RCA jacks. There's copper inside those. Those will go into a pile and wait till later. And that's about it besides the pile of trash. That was tearing apart a crusty ass VCR.